Hello guys. So there was a technical issue, and let's continue with automation using Ansible. There is a slight network issue over here, so there's some problem. So last video got deleted, so I'm beginning it again from new. So guys, I am Dipto Chakrabarti. I'm a Red Hat uh, Red Hat certified system administrator and a Red Hat certified specialist in Ansible automation. I'll be telling you guys about what is automation exactly, and I'll be using one of the tools called Ansible to showcase some real examples of automation. So Ansible automation. So when we talk about automation, automation falls under the large umbrella of called DevOps. So before we enter automation, let's see a bit about DevOps. What is DevOps exactly? So Due, due to the heavy competition and changing marketplace, companies needed to also change very fast. Uh, for example, you'll see Ola and Uber or Swiggy and Zomato. If there's a new feature launched in Swiggy, then within a few hours, Zomato might come up with an even better implementation of that feature in their own app. So how is that possible? Such fast deployments and testing. Like even if you need to make a new feature, you have to first test it, then there'll be errors, and then you have to like final it and then leave it out because your customers cannot complain. So how is that possible? So this fast dealing, testing, and between operations and development, these all are covered through DevOps. DevOps basically focuses on two issues that companies need a lot right now. That is agility and a better collaboration between operations and developments. These are some of the tools that are widely used in DevOps. You can see that today we'll be talking about Ansible, Puppet, Chef, SaltStack. These are the other automation tools that are also present. Other than that, you can also see this Splunk and Nagios, which is like a monitoring tool which contains log about all the activities that's going on in your various servers, a very useful tool. Then there's Jenkins. So today's discussion is on Ansible. So let's just see some of the companies that use DevOps a lot. The the first company that relies really on DevOps is Amazon. Amazon is a huge user of DevOps. AWS deployments and scaling up really fast is through DevOps. Then there's Netflix, all the quick traffic management and then deployments. That's Netflix uses DevOps for that. And NASA is also a huge user of DevOps, and there are multiple many companies. And you might be interested to know that Game of Thrones, the also use DevOps. Game of Thrones used a tool called Kubernetes and containers to scale up their huge traffic and applications. So you can check that out in Google. It's really interesting. So some of the DevOps products are Jenkins, Chef, Docker, Ansible, Kubernetes, Puppet, Nagios. So today we'll be talking about Ansible. So why automation? So I'll give a quick example. Like suppose you have three servers. In first server, you need a HTTPD installed. In the second, you need a Nginx web server installed. And in the third, uh, you need some software installed. Now the problem is that first one is a Red Hat, second one is Ubuntu, and the third one you can say is CentOS. Now, If I were to tell you to do this, you will have to go to each of the servers separately. You would have to know all the commands uh, for each of the different OS. You will also have to know which of the files for all the configuration. And the most problematic thing would take you a long time, a really long time. So this is where automation comes in. It's really useful. In automation, there's a master node through which we can run tasks to install packages or configure other servers. Now, why is this so useful? Because this is really fast. There's less human labor involved. You can continuously test your products, and it's highly scalable. And the main advantage is in automation, you won't have to worry about which type of OS you're dealing with. The automation tool, for example, Ansible, will automatically determine which type of OS it is and run the commands required accordingly. Now, there are automation tools that are hugely popular in the market are Ansible, Puppet, Chef. There are others also, but in the recent years, the popularity of Ansible has been growing exponentially. It's becoming really popular. And why is that so? Because Ansible is really simple to learn and set up. It's easy to extend, and you can easily create a module. Like if you want a requirement, you can easily create a module on Ansible through any language you want. For other languages like Chef and all, you need to know Ruby or some languages. Ansible is highly scalable, and Ansible is agentless server. That is, Ansible only needs to be installed in your one master node through which you will be controlling all the other nodes. There's no other requirements. In Chef, Puppet, and other automation tools, you have to configure the agent nodes also. In Ansible, that's not the case. So Ansible has three components: the control machine, the machine through which we will be controlling the other servers, the packages, installation, and everything; the inventory, where there will be a list of all the target machines; and the playbooks, which is the main code for the Ansible. So let's begin. So this is my master node in which uh, through which I'll be influencing all the other my managed nodes, which is where the changes will be going. So first we need to install Ansible. So in Red Hat, I'm using a Red Hat 7.5. So in Red Hat, when you need to install something, you use yum. So in my case, Ansible is already installed. If you're using Ubuntu, it's apt-get. So now we have installed Ansible. This is my managed node. As you can see, let's check its IP. Its IP, it's not visible, but it's 192.168.43.200. So in this case, I've used a IPADDR command, which basically shows you the IP address of your system. You might have used ifconfig, but in CLI, for ifconfig, you need a separate package which is not installed right now. I can show you. See, the command is not found. That's because NetTools is a package through which ifconfig comes, and that's currently not installed in the CLI. So this I've come back to my master node. So now that we have installed Ansible, uh, you need to configure Ansible in your system. So Ansible, when you install Ansible, there are two configuration files. There are two files, not configuration files, sorry. The first one is the Ansible etc/ansible/hosts. It's present in the etc/ansible directory, the hosts file. What is this file? This file basically contains the IP address of all your managed node, like where you want to deploy services, all the nodes entry should be done in the host file before deploying, or else Ansible will not be able to detect. Whenever we run Ansible, whenever we use Ansible, Ansible first asks the host file about which are the machines it needs to run on, and then it moves further. So this is the host file. There's one more file. It's also in the etc and etc/ansible directly, the ansible.cfg or the Ansible configuration file. Now this is a really important file. What this file does is basically there are a lot of factors in this file. The first thing that is really important is inventory. The inventory is the file which specifies where your host file is, the file which I opened just before. So a little more detail about that. First, let's create a workstation for Ansible, and then I'll explain in more detail what is this, how is the configuration. In here, I've created a workstation, a folder in the name of workstation. You can check that it's clearly entry. I've used the ls command and there is no output. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy my host file and my configuration file over here. You can see that my host and configuration file have come up. Now this is exactly like what you have to do in the exam, like in the Red Hat examinations, we had to do it this way. We had to create our host or separate workstation and then work on them. So now that we have come in our workstation, you can check the host file. These are the commented parts using the hash, and there are now two entries which were there in my previous host file. That's no issue. What's really interesting is about the configuration file. Now in the configuration file, you might see that the default inventory path I've given is in desktop, GitHub, / and updated menu. That's because I'd created a workstation over there and I'd given my default path as this. Now what does this basically mean is that Ansible will first consult the configuration file and it'll ask where is the host file, and the inventory will tell that the host file is present in this place, this path. Then Ansible will go to that path, then it will consult the host file and it will say, okay, I got the IPs, and then it will start its work. So this is a really important step. What you have to do when you make a workstation, you have to change this inventory to your current to the place you want your host file to be present. So I'm going to change that. So now we have updated our configuration file and host file. There's now I want to push my change. I want to manage this server over here, which I have currently opened. This is my managed node. So I'm going to make an entry of this one's IP in my hosts file. This is the way you have to start with any Ansible problem. You always have to make an entry of your the node in which you are going to work on in your host file, or else it won't, or else Ansible will not be able to detect it. Now here I've given the username and password directly. So I'm going to show another better method. Ansible works basically on SSH. So when we run any when we run an Ansible when we use Ansible, by default in the back it uses SSH to enter that server and then make changes on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a SSH keygen. What this will do is it will help me SSH or enter my other file directly, or else if I try to enter, so what a SSH keygen is, it's like when you try to SSH into a different server, you have to provide that server's password. Now what a SSH keygen does is it creates two keys. One key is kept with suppose server A and the other key is kept with server B. And when from server A to server B to SSH, there is no need to provide your password except the first time when you are copying the SSH key. So let's try to SSH. So if you have any doubts, you can post it for 2 minutes. So what I'm attempting to do is, whenever Ansible, we run Ansible commands, it uses SSH in the background. So because it does not ask prompts again and again, I'm creating a SSH keygen and passing it to both of them. So it's easily manageable. We are taking a 5-minute break for doubts, so you can ask your doubts. Yeah, sure. So Ansible works on SSH, and when we run a Ansible command. Ansible is written in Python too, just so you know, and the file format in which we write Ansible is YAML. Uh, so the the main advantage of Ansible is Ansible need not be installed in the other nodes. It just needs to be installed in the main master node, and the only requirement for Ansible is that the other nodes have Python 2.4 or more. Now, if you want to know a bit more about the theory, through diagrams. So now basically what I'm telling you, this will be my master node. These are suppose my client nodes, and how Ansible works is this is suppose server 1, this is server 2, and this is server 3. Now what, let's say suppose I want one package over here, HTTPD. Here I want a NIGX, and here I want a uh, FTP server. What Ansible will do, Ansible will not go and install all of these itself. It will go to the server. It'll find out what its commands are. Suppose this is the Red Hat server. It'll come to know that its command is yum, and through yum it will install HTTPD. For the second server, it'll go to this server. Suppose it's a Ubuntu. You get to know it's a apt-get, and it'll tell this command that install NIGX. It'll go to this server. In the third server, suppose it's a CentOS, and it'll find out that its installation is through yum, and then it'll tell yum to install FTP. So Ansible is not installing or doing the work for you. Ansible is just managing everything. It's like in an officer, the workers do all the work, but the manager tells them how to do it and what to do it. Ansible is just like that manager. Now, a little more. So, when you're working with Ansible, you make playbooks called Ansible playbooks, and there are a number of modules through which you can do your work. So, let's say so What I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell you about how Ansible installs a HTTPD server. So I'm going to tell you about how Ansible installs like a HTTPD server. Uh, if you might know, HTTPD runs on port 80, and so Ansible has a module called package module. What I'm doing is basically I'm opening Ansible docs. These are these are when you install Ansible, there's a document for Ansible installed along with it, and you can refer these docs whenever you want. These are highly useful because in our examinations there used to be a lot of questions, and they would just mention the module for you. So that time we used to refer to the docs about what the module was and how to use it. So in this doc, suppose package, what package basically does is it maintains all the kinds of softwares you need to install and uninstall in your servers. So for example, in the docs, you can see that the uh, various attributes of the package module that you need to enter, suppose name, state, and what's its use. But if you go a bit down, you'll see real examples over here. So what this is doing is package. It's installing a NTP date uh, software, and this is how simple it is to write a Ansible playbook. In the files in which it's written, you just write name and the name of the software you need and the state that is present. Now, if Ansible will go to that required node you need, and it'll check if NTP date is present or not. If it finds out that NTP date is already installed, well and good, it won't do anything. But if it finds out that NTP date is not installed, it will install it by managing everything like finding out which commands are needed and what to do. So that is how powerful Ansible is. It automatically determines what to do and how to do. You don't need to do anything. No, Ansible has a lot of applications other than installing packages. So I'm going to show you some few other modules, that really powerful modules that you can use through Ansible. This you have seen is package module, which is used for installation of Ansible and installing packages. Now there's one more module called service module. What this basically does is when you install your suppose I'm installing a HTTP web server. What I'm going to do is install a web. I'm going to show you how to write a playbook to install web server. Now in YML file, everything is everything is based on list content. So a list begins with a dash, and you have to specify your hosts. I'm writing it as all, that is change in all the servers, that is go and influence all the servers, and then you have to write tasks. What tasks is basically what are the things you want in your remote server or control or managed nodes that needs to be changed. You write it in tasks. You specify, you list down all the things that needs to be changed or all the things that needs to be checked in your task. So suppose I need a HTTP server installed. What this does is basically the name HTTPD, it goes and checks if HTTPD is present or not, and if it is not present, it will install it. This is using a package module, sorry. So this is the installation, but to use it in a company or give it to your clients, you need to have the HTTPD server installed and running. So for that, you use a service module, which is another module. So here you can see directly the example of HTTPD is given. What this is doing is it's taking us, it's going to the HTTPD server and checking if it is, and what it's doing, it's starting the server. This is how we used to do in the examinations. We just used to open our Ansible docs and copy paste from them and then change the necessary details we needed. Now, and while writing playbooks, it's really necessary that you take care of indentations just like Python. So everything has to be indentated in a single proper line. So what this service module is going to do, it's going to go and then start the HTTPD server. And if it is started already, then no problem, it won't do anything. But if it is stopped, then it'll go and start it again. So this is this this is how you this is simple, very simple example of how you just get a HTTP server running. There are a lot of concepts of Ansible. So if you want to check out other modules, I'd suggest some of the modules are, you can check this, you can check this modules out. Get underscore URL, that is for downloading anything. Archive module, that is for making anything tar. Then there's also yum module, that is similar to the package module, but you can also check that. Copy module, it's widely used for configuring your files and everything. Then line in file module, that's used to write in your line in, that's used to write in your files. And uh, then there's template module, and one more important is command module. What this command module basically does is you can run any Linux command and all these. So these are some of the modules that that you can check out if you want. So there are a lot of concepts in Ansible, and like for example in my exam there was law, other than Ansible playbook, there was a concept of crypt, uh, Ansible vaults and Galaxy. Now what are those? Those are a bit advanced concepts. So for example, suppose you say, now what I'm going to show is an example. Ansible is so powerful that it can send mails for you, and that you can send mails through Gmail using Ansible. So these are some of the official docs in Google that are present, through which you can refer and then send mails. Now, hmm, this is the whole code for it. Now, for example, you can see what it's doing is it's using the mail module, and what this basically does is, in mail module listing out all the things you need to do in Ansible. So first thing is host. Host is, you can notice that smtp.gmail.com. Now this is the main server for Gmail that Google uses. So you are going to directly talk with that server. So this is the host file. Then there's the port, which is 587 default. That is the port for mailing. Now what's really interesting is the username and password. The username will be your default username, like anything like you have your VIT usernames, like I have dipto.chakrabarti 2018, that. And then there comes the password. What the password is your Gmail password. So you can understand how important this thing is. Uh, if you are going to write publicly your Gmail password over here, anyone can check it out and then have access to your Gmail. So this is where vaults come in. Before I go to vault, I'll just tell you what are the other things that are being used. That is to, that is to which mail you are sending to, the subject, which you basically write in the mail uh, before you send any mail, and then the body, what you want to write in the body. That's it. But what's really interesting is vaults. How I'm going to use vaults. So what vaults basically does, it, you can store all your passwords and everything in vaults, and it cannot be cracked. Like I'm going to create an Ansible vault. See, this is asking me for a vault password. So I'm just going to keep it as something simple. Now I've entered my vault. Now what I can basically do is I can, um, I'll just play a, I'll write a name of a service, or I'll write password. And here I can safely write whatever password I need. So for example, my Gmail password, I'll just use a simple one. Um, Red Hat version 7. So just assume this is my Gmail password and I wrote it in this vault. Now I'm exiting the vault. But what happened? But it's open. The vault.yml file is publicly open over here. That so anyone who has access to my system can check it out. So and if you try to open the vault simply using a Vim, now what is this? This is a 256-bit encryption used in vaults. The most powerful encryption ever, one of the most powerful encryption ever created. It's access to your system. He won't be able to access your vault and check out your details. Open a vault. It's simple. You can use this command. It's asking me for my password, and here I have entered my vault again. What's different between both the commands is, first one is ansible-vault create vault.yml. So it's creating the vault file, and the second one is ansible vault edit vault.yml. What's it doing is, it's, I want to edit my vault details. I want to edit the details inside my vault. So that's why edit is being used. And it's asking me, prompting me for my password. Now, if I make a simple Gmail one, I'll show it in here. I want to check out the mail docs. So this is my this is a so what I'm basically doing here is I'm defining a password. This symbol, whenever we write anything in Ansible in this way, what it basically means is a variable. The variable name can be anything, whichever you specify. But where will this variable come from? It's going to come from my um, Vault file, which I recently just created now. So how do you access that? You do it to vaults underscore files. What this basically tells Ansible, you list a directory. What this basically tells Ansible that before you run anything, go check this directory out, and if there's any code or variable in it, pull it. And if you might have noticed, I gave the Red Hat version 7 password under the name of password variable. So the password variable is storing the value Red Hat version 7. So that is being used here. So when the playbook runs, when it comes to this point, that is the password, and it encounters this variable, it will go to this file, it'll check out that the password is really Red Hat version 7, and it'll run it, and the playbook will continue. Now, when you want to run the playbook, you will be what you can do is you have to give the password of your vault file so that your Ansible playbook can access that vault. And once I've given, and it won't run basically because my password is wrong. I definitely wouldn't be giving my password over here, so that's the default password. I'd forgotten to mention the hosts over here, so there. So these are some of the concepts of Ansible that it's very regularly used and it's widely asked in the examinations. So beyond that, there's another concept called Galaxy, which is much more complex, and it's basically splitting up your playbooks into different parts and running it. Uh, Now we will add all the resources in the repo. Just to before we end, I'd like to say that the Ansible examination, it's becoming really popular, and now there's a new examination for setting up a whole Red Hat 8 using Ansible. So that's how popular Ansible is becoming. And if you are interested, you can try to attempt this examination, because it's a recent examination and there's only one person in India who has cracked it, and there's very few people in the world. So if you are able to do it in a university level, then everybody, the recruiters will be after you. Other than that, if you want to check out few interesting GitHub repositories for Ansible, so we'll be giving the links for these repos the in the we we'll be putting it in the repo. So some interesting repos that you might want to work on, and Ansible community is really large and you can be a part of it. Um, there's still a lot about Ansible, but there's still a lot to discuss. But right now, we'll keep it for this. So if you have any doubts, you can connect easily with me. I'll be more than glad to solve it for you. And thank you.